Good afternoon and welcome to another live event here at Fitness Together in Ashland. My name is Bob Saven. I am the owner of Fitness Together Ashland as well as Fitness Together in Southborough. I wanted to thank anyone that is joining us here live today, but I also wanted to acknowledge anyone who is watching the video on replay. We're real happy to have you, and I appreciate you taking a look at what we're going to be talking about today, and that is improving health and confidence in teenagers through the strength training. So before I get into the topic and before I talk a little bit more about how we provide training for teens here at the studio, I wanted to give you a little bit of background for those that don't know me. As I said, my name is Bob Saven. I've been in the fitness industry now for 25 plus years, and probably over the last 18 or so training here at Fitness Together, owning the facility. But also my background training teenagers. One of the things that I've done in the past, I was an assistant coach with the Hopkinton High School hockey team. Back in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, actually probably early 2000s now that I'm thinking about it. But I was an assistant coach there. We've been training, I said, teenagers here in our two studios for the last 18 or so years. And we currently have several teenagers that train with us regularly for all different kinds of sports. Obviously, we've worked not only with people and teenagers training for athletics, but just training for health reasons as well. And most importantly, what I want to talk about today is, first of all, why train? Why is it important for youths to begin a training program, a strength training program, but also how to do it, some of the obstacles that we find that kids face when they're beginning a program, or those that are enrolled in programs currently, some of the problems they may be having. Also, some of the concerns that I know for the adults that are watching this, parents that are watching this, that some of the questions that I often get asked about the training program, about should their kid be training, is it good for them? What are some of the concerns there? And again, how people can get started with a program as well. So to start with, I want to talk about why even train. And one of the things I wanted to bring up, there's a lot of research out there that talks about adult training and the health benefits, not as much with youth training. Some of the best information that I've seen out there was through someone that I had an opportunity to work with years ago, Dr. Avery Fagenbaum. Back in the day, he was working at UMass Boston, I believe, and he's in New Jersey now, I think. But some of the research that was done there indicated that regular participation in strength training should be incorporated into the weekly routine of all school youth-age children. And that was something, like I said, that they had studied, that they had researched, and that was a conclusion that they came up with. And they said supervised training specifically, supervised training programs are a safe, effective, and worthwhile method of training. So a lot of times what you see, and I know I've been speaking to some of the kids that we've worked with, where most of the schools nowadays have a gym set up, they have weight training equipment, strength training equipment that the kids can use. Oftentimes either that's unsupervised, or if there is some supervision, again, it's a large facility with a lot of kids in there, and they're not getting specific instruction. So what they're left with is just doing the things that maybe their friends are doing. Nobody's really coached them into doing it the right way. So it's a much more dangerous environment than having a supervised situation. So when it's supervised, it's a lot safer and more effective. The focus really should be, in terms of training, focused on having fun, making friends, learning something new. Those are all reasons why a kid should train. Some of the things that we've seen, and some of the biggest problems in youth sports nowadays, has been the competitiveness. So, I've got friends who have kids who they're playing one sport all year long, and they're playing, not just practicing or not just learning how to play the game better, but they're engaged in games throughout the year. And what you find with that is, for the top percentage of kids who are playing and getting all the ice time and succeeding in that sport, they enjoy it. They're doing very well. And they may even get burned out at some point. But for the kids that maybe aren't on the top line, for the kids that are struggling, they quickly lose their passion for that sport. And unfortunately, the competitive nature of it and the win-at-all-cost type of programs that are out there means that a lot of kids are dropping off or dropping out of sport far before they might otherwise do so. Right? They're not having fun anymore. Kids choose not to get involved. So many of the kids that we train here at Fitness Together, when I've talked to them, I ask them, are they involved in sports? Are they training for a specific sport? They're not involved in any athletic activity at all. And mostly, again, it's because of the competitive nature of it. It's not something that they find is going to be fun for them. So what we do with our training is we want to make sure that we're providing that fun environment, that kids are enjoying what they're doing, and they have a reason to do so. The consequences of not training, of course, what you're seeing nowadays are increases in childhood obesity. I don't have a specific number for that, but the numbers are going up every year. So obesity is increasing. Like I said, you're seeing a lot more specialization nowadays with kids in training. So they're not getting exposure to different types of training, different types of sports. Other reasons to train: increased confidence. And a great story that I have: years ago, we were working with a kid who came into us. As I remember his mom bringing him in. The kid, we'll call him, Jimmy. Jimmy was probably 13 years old. He came in with his mom, and I remember him just having his hat pulled down over his eyes, and his head was kind of sunken down. And I'm not even really sure he wanted to be there. And I knew that he had some health issues, and that's why his mom wanted to get him started on some training. And it was a scary environment, right? There were a lot of adults working out around him, and he wasn't sure confidence-wise that he could do it because he had been ill in the past. His strength was down, his energy was down, but he started training, started working out regularly with the trainer. And what you started to see over time was this incredible transformation in his attitude, in his strength, of course, in his health. But I just remember one day, going down, months later and seeing him in the gym one day. And I almost didn't recognize him because not only had he grown, but now here was this kid, wearing a tank top. His muscles were starting to show through a little bit. And of course, some of that was maturity and aging. But what you started to see in this kid was his hat was on backwards. He was standing tall, and he was walking around the gym like he owned the place. And all of that really, I think, came from the confidence of finding a place where he was supported, where he was succeeding. We were giving him activities that he was good at, and he was starting to do better and better each workout. And that gave him some confidence, and I hope really set him up. At the time, I believe he was probably just in middle school. But what I really hope, and what we try to accomplish with our training programs, is to make sure that when kids go on to high school, when they go on to college, that they've really laid that foundation for doing things the right way, knowing how to work out, and being able to safely do so even on their own. So those are some of the reasons why someone might want to train. Also, the things that are important, and this is why I kind of referenced before about the ideas of not being involved in games all the time. Kids really need to learn motor activity. So if you think about like kids as they're maturing or as they're developing from infancy, they learn how to crawl, they learn how to walk, they learn how to run. When we look at athletic training, when we look at weight training, the same kind of process has to happen, right? We have to crawl before we can run. So we have to teach kids how to properly lift throughout the program. It can't just be that they jump in and they start performing at this high level. They start doing these exercises that are meant for much higher levels. So when kids are just involved in games all the time, if for those that are just participating in sports, or for those that aren't involved in sports at all, if kids are not involved in regular training, what starts to happen is they start to lose those motor patterns. They start to lose the ability to move properly, to walk properly, to run properly, to do anything athletically inclined. And that will affect their lives later on. What you'll start to see is poor health as adults because of the lack of movement as children, not only through the obesity rate and things like that, but just through lack of movement. Right? They develop poor movement patterns, and they have many more injuries later on in life. So those are some of the good reasons to train. In terms of obstacles, as I said, competitive sports certainly has become an obstacle in that there's much more demand to play every season and not take a break to train for fear of falling behind. So I think it's important that that kids have that opportunity, not only to take a break from their sport, but to learn different skills. I remember when I was a kid, I played lacrosse, I played baseball, things that would get me away from hockey for a little while, which was my main sport. So I'd learn how to use, so that I'd meet other people, I'd have other friends, but also I'd learn to do other movement patterns. I'd learn to use my feet more. I'd learn to use my upper body more to throw the lacrosse ball, to throw a baseball, as opposed to things that I was just doing with hockey. Certainly throwing a ball, swinging a bat was a lot more rotational in nature. And those types of things actually helped me in terms of hockey, in terms of shooting the puck and doing those types of things. And obviously the strength training would help as well. So other obstacles, passion. I mentioned that before in terms of whose passion really is it. When kids come in here, one of the first things that I talk to the parents about is to make sure that the kids want to do this. Right? Because obviously, their safety, their health, certainly a concern of ours. And what I always prioritize is, we're going to make this a fun environment. We're going to teach the kids how to do things properly. We're going to engage them and test them and have them work hard. But we want it to be something that they enjoy coming to do, because it is important that they pay attention. It is important that they work hard. So for us, kind of our process is that when parents bring their kids in, we always take them through a consultation. We take them through some exercises that maybe they'd be doing during a workout with us. And then we kind of leave it there and talk to the parents about having a discussion at home with the child to really make sure that it's the right environment. We try not to put any pressure on people when they come in. We certainly don't ask people to make an immediate decision with their child before they've had an opportunity to discuss it, before they've had some quiet time away from the studio, away from the pressure of me being in the room with them, to really make sure that they're making the right decision and that the child really wants to be a part of the program here. Distractions. There's so many distractions. Obviously nowadays, kids are involved with different sports, different games, different computer activities at home. So there's a lot of reasons and a lot of things that are become distractions to getting exercise in. So those are obstacles. Other obstacles I've seen are poor training environment or poor trainers, sadly. People that aren't comfortable working with children and don't have the right program in mind, or are not considering the types of activities that would benefit the child the most. So as I mentioned before, a lot of times kids will go into a facility and they'll be given a program or they'll be put on a piece of equipment that really isn't designed for them. A lot of gyms have larger equipment that was built for adults and maybe doesn't fit the child properly. Or maybe if the child is learning how to do a free weight activity, they're jumping right into an advanced lift and not really learning the basics at a much safer, smaller weight. Or again, the mechanics of how to even move in that pattern before they start lifting heavier weights with more advanced technique. So we always start at the beginning. We have some light weights. We even have back behind me, you can see kind of a big plate, a big weight sitting on the floor behind me. But we actually have some smaller weights that are actually, kind of replicas, if you will, of that only weigh 5 pounds. So kids actually get the opportunity to lift weights that look big and look impressive. But not only does that give them the confidence, the weights themselves only weigh 5 pounds, but it gives them an opportunity to see what it looks like form-wise to be doing that activity with something that looks like the much bigger weights that we have on the floor behind me. Some of the concerns. Talking about the concerns that parents may have when they come or they enroll their child in a program, in a strength training program. One of the things that's come up for years was about stunting their growth. And that's actually a kind of an urban myth, if you will. Kids will not stunt their growth by lifting weights. Again, there's been studies that have been done, and there's no evidence that would ever happen. So other myths, as I said before, strength training is safe for children. one of the other things, or I've heard, is that, or one of the other myths that's come up is that children are unable to increase strength because they don't have enough testosterone at a young age. That's also just a myth. Kids can increase strength at any age, and in doing so, as I said, not only is it going to help health and confidence, but it's going to prepare them, should they be inclined to do anything athletically. It's going to give them kind of a leg up when it comes time for any type of athletic activity as well, because not only are they going to be stronger, but they're going to have better coordination. So other questions, when to start? Kids can really start at any age. We take in kids starting at age 11 or above. We find that that's kind of the best time frame to start kids, just as they're in middle school, and that gives us time to prepare them. Again, if they are getting engaged in high school athletics, or they have any plans to get involved in high school athletics. But as I said, one of the things that we're coming across now is with a lot of camps being closed, a lot of kids not having the opportunities that they would otherwise have throughout the summer, and with the potential for schools being closed in the fall, there's less and less activity time for kids. So we're seeing, again, kids, of all ages, whether they're athletically inclined or not, it's activity, right? Kids need activity, they need socialization, and we're able to provide for that in a very safe environment. So one of the other concerns, and I'll play a little video in just a moment from one of the parents of one of the teenagers currently working with us, but that was one of the main concerns coming back from all the issues of coronavirus, was going back into a gym. For a lot of kids are not welcome into gyms before they're age 16 or above. So again, we're working with kids who may be younger, but also want that safe environment. All of our training here is one-on-one. So when kids come in, the room, it's a private room. I'm sitting in one of the larger rooms now that we have, but it's a private training suite. Everybody's wearing a mask, and kids have a very safe, comfortable environment to train as well as learn. How often do kids train with us? Oftentimes kids will train at least twice a week. That's my recommendation. Strength training twice a week is one of the programs that we offer. And then how do we train? So in terms of how we train, as I mentioned before, I think the most important thing is to have fun, is to teach people. So we teach kids skills that they may have had. I mean, if you think back to when you're really young, what do you learn how to do? You run, you jump, you kick, you throw. So those are all types of activities that we work with kids on. We use medicine balls. We use, all the tools that maybe you see behind me here to have some fun, but we teach kids the basics first. Right? So those are some of the things that we want to teach. We want to teach, movement first, then we worry about volume of training, and then lastly, we worry about load. So the amount of weight that we lift is the least important thing. The first thing we do is teach people how to do it properly. And I think, as I said before, it's just the opposite of what you're seeing sometimes in when kids go to the gym on their own, or when they're working out with friends, is, the first thing they're turning to is, how much weight can you lift? And I hear it all the time from kids. How much can you bench? How much can you squat? How much can you deadlift? Right? We want to teach them form, movement first, volume next, load lastly. The other important things, is progression. If kids are not lifting progressively, if they're not increasing that load over time, then they're not getting stronger. So we do increase load, we do progress them, but as I keep mentioning, safe is the most important thing. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to click over here, and I'm going to just play a couple of videos. We do have, as I mentioned before, several teens training with us currently. This is a video that we shot and some questions that were asked of one of the moms of one of our teenagers. But let me just click over and play that for you.
All right. So what made William want to start training here at Fitness Together?
Well, William started in November, and we were looking for an activity for him to do over the winter, and he wanted more of a private one-on-one type of activity, and this just fit what we were looking for perfectly. All right.
Okay, and how has training at Fitness Together helped William, and what benefits has it brought him?
It's really helped build his confidence. It's brought him a little bit out of his comfort zone because he is somewhat of a shy kid. So it's really helped, and he's really enjoys working out with his trainer. And his strength, he really enjoys getting stronger after every session. He enjoys that feeling of feeling good and stronger, building strength.
Okay, so that just gives you a little bit more of an overview as to some of the benefits of training. As I mentioned, I think that for kids, and this is why I titled the workshop what I did today, the talk what I did today, improving health and confidence. I think ultimately that's the most important thing. As I started this out today, kids spend a lot of time now away from their friends, in front of the TV, in front of the computer. They're not getting the same opportunities that they were getting in the past. And then when they are given those opportunities, maybe those opportunities aren't the safest for them. So for us, for working with kids, I think that's what's most important, is that through strength training, through gaining strength and through learning how to do things properly, through things that they see others doing that maybe they have some doubts about, being able to do those things and being able to do them properly really helps kids gain confidence. Really, it teaches them how to use the weights properly, and that's our main goal here at Fitness Together. So, what I encourage people to do, if you're watching this again, certainly reach out to us for a consultation. We can do things virtually to get started. If you're comfortable coming in, we can have you into the facility with your kid so that you can see what we have to offer here. We can go through that process. But most importantly, is reach out to talk, and we can determine what is the best type of program for you. I'll put my information up here at the end. But again, I want to thank everybody for coming out and listening to this today. And I hope to see you here in the studio soon. Thanks.